you surprised to learn that the real estate values in downtown Dallas actually lag some of the surrounding areas?
Surprised, probably not, because we've been following this. I mean, really, the reinvestment in downtown didn't start until the late 90s when we created the first tax increment finance district for downtown, second one coming in 2005. And we know that this is an evolution, and Tilly makes a great point. As a city, we're young. As a revitalized city, we're even younger. So we got started much later than a lot of other areas. So you look at the seeds of those investments that are now going on 10, 15, almost 20 years, we're seeing those develop. So the rise in the values that we're seeing now are really the result of what's been going on for a couple of decades. So surprised, no. Disappointed, yeah, we wish it would have moved up a little bit faster, but I think the rate at which we're moving at this point, even within just the last couple of years, is phenomenal. Price per square foot in every square inch of downtown, north, south, east, or west, is rising quickly, and I think we're going to see that trajectory really bump up faster as we go through the next couple of years, even if the market softens nationally. Slow and steady wins the race. We don't experience the peaks and the valleys that the coasts do. So when I mentioned, kind of in passing, even if the market softens, I think that's very true. We're going to continue to see that climb. And I think we're able to be more thoughtful about our development in that way too. And I'll use affordable housing as an example. We follow colleagues in Denver very closely. There are a lot of analogous traits to both cities. And their housing prices rose at such a rapid rate that they started losing corporate relocations because their employees couldn't afford to live in their downtown. So now we, collectively, are now recognizing that there's a strain in the housing market within our urban areas. We're reaching those price points that are becoming inaccessible. So now we have a new housing policy that will begin to cater to the downtown area through our 360 plan work, which I hope we'll talk about later. So I think that slow-moving growth is actually good for us, even though those of us who are very impatient want to see it move a little bit faster.
Well, I do want to get to 360, but I want to come back to parks to just a minute, because Chris mentioned Clyde Warren again, and what a shining example it is. Kourtny, and this, I think this goes to Tilly and Kourtny, because Tilly, we're about to try and do the same thing that we did with Clyde Warren right next to the zoo. Is it possible, so it went Main Street Garden, right? And when you talk about making an area, creating a sense of place where someone might want to live and turn it into a neighborhood. There was Main Street Garden, that was the first one, downtown, and then Clyde Warren Park was number 2, and it has just been so successful that all of a sudden now we've decided we're going to build 10 parks downtown. I'm exaggerating, but only by maybe 4. A factor of 2. How many?
4.
10, 4. But we're building a lot of parks all at once, okay? And we're trying to replicate the success across from the zoo. Is it possible that we're looking at parks as something that is a panacea, that you can do a Clyde Warren wherever you put a green space? Is that a danger?
It's kind of like sidewalk cafes cure-all in downtown planning. No, I think we are far behind what we should be in terms of per capita green space in Dallas in general. So I don't think that we're looking at these parks as the silver bullet to revitalize neighborhoods. That being said, there is remarkable progress that comes with parks. You look at Main Street Garden, which you used as the example, our first big signature park, that was a catalyst for the Statler to turn on. It was a very important component of the entire mercantile and element redevelopment. We now have UNT systems and UNT School of Law around the parks, so they are incredibly beneficial to their neighborhoods. Now that being said, we need to look at each of these parks, and whether it's the 4 new ones coming into downtown or any future deck parks, and look at the context of the neighborhoods. Clyde Warren Park, and I'm not sure if Kit or anyone on her team are here, but I think they'll be the first ones to say it is work to sustain that type of regular programming, that level of maintenance. So we need to look at the neighborhoods within the area that these parks are benefiting, and what do those neighborhoods need? Is it a neighborhood park? Is it a destination park? I mean, Clyde Warren Park, frankly, I don't think of as a park. It's a recreation destination more than anything else. So I think really, I mean, it's looking at the neighborhood needs and that adjacent use and what each space should be. So the 360 plan, the downtown plan, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with, was originally crafted in 2011 and it was a partnership between DDI, the city, and those many, many partners that you mentioned. So we went through the update last year, adopted by council in December, and the plan, it is our plan for downtown and adjacent neighborhoods in looking at about a 5-year horizon of what we need to do comprehensively. And by comprehensively, what we really are looking at is resting on 3 strategies. One is complete neighborhoods, which includes looking at housing and not just growing our housing stock, which we need to, but also diversifying it from both a product and a price point standpoint, connecting that housing to jobs, connecting that housing to more parks and green space, and connecting that housing to more opportunities for quality education, which is a topic that I'll save for another 30 seconds that you give me.
But bottom line is we need an elementary school in downtown Dallas, and
Yes.
DISD needs a lot of help making that happen.
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah.
What he
You're welcome.
said.
Yeah, what I said.
So the complete neighborhoods is a component. Advanced urban mobility is kind of the second tranche of the framework of the plan. And that's looking at everything from very high-level principles for urban mobility, which to much of the conversation that we're having here today, we really haven't had in Dallas. We have not had a voice of consensus to tell TxDOT, to tell DART, to tell these planning agencies what we want urban mobility to look like in our city. And then the third component is placemaking and urban design. So how are we ensuring that when new projects do come into the market, and this is very important for downtown right now because we're entering a phase of new construction. The 40 vacant buildings that we had 15 years ago are all now almost redeveloped. We are now looking at surface parking lot development. So we need to ensure that this new construction embraces downtown in the right way. And then the final component on placemaking is activation and programming and creating those experiences like vending carts, which from a regulatory perspective are actually very hard to put out. So the plan really looks at those code components and the real nitty-gritty on how we're making your experience when you walk block by block downtown much better.